Check. Alrighty, well, good evening to all of you who are here and able to join us for this wonderful Apologetics conference. We thank you so much for being here. I hope that this time will be absolutely beneficial for all of us. Would you please stand with us as we sing a few songs in preparation of worship and a reminder of why we are truly here. So the first song should be Who You Say I Am. Who am I that the highest King would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me and oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free. I'm a child of God, yes I am. At last he has ransomed me, oh his grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. The Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, in my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. I'm chosen. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Sing that again. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, in my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Amen. I'm forgiven. I'm forgiven because you were forsaken. I'm accepted. You were condemned. And I'm alive and well. Your spirit is within me because you died and rose again. Sing that again. I'm forgiven because you were forsaken. I'm accepted. You were condemned. And I'm alive and well. Your spirit is within me because you died and rose again. Amazing love. Amazing love. How can it be? You, my King, would die for me. Amazing love, I know it's true. It's my joy to honor you in all I do. I honor you. I'm forgiven. I'm forgiven 'cause you were forsaken. I'm accepted. You were condemned. And I'm alive and well. Your spirit is within me. Because you died and rose again. Whoa, amazing love, how can it be? You, my King, would die for me. Amazing love, I know it's true. It's my joy to honor you. In all I do, I honor you. Oh, you are my King. You are my King. Sing it. Jesus, you are my King. My King. Amazing love, how can it be? You, my King, would die for me. Whoa. Amazing love, I know it's true. It's my joy to honor you. Amazing love, how can it be? You, my King, would die for me. Amazing love, I know it's true. It's my joy to honor you in all I do. I honor you in all I do. In all I do, I honor you. Amen. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I worship your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I worship your holy name. You're rich in love and you're slow to anger. Your name is great and your heart is kind. For all your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. worship your holy name. And on that day, when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come, still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I worship your holy name. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before. Oh my soul, I worship your holy name. I worship your holy name. Lord, I worship your holy name. Amen. I count on one thing. The same God who never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley, and yes, I will bless your name. Yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy and all my days. Oh yes, I will. I count on one thing. The same God who never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. God who never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley, and yes, I will bless your name. And yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy and all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will. I choose to praise, to glorify the name of all names. Nothing can stand against. I choose to praise, to glorify the name of all names. Nothing can stand against. And I choose to praise, to glorify the name of all names. Nothing can stand against. I choose to praise, to glorify the name of all names. Nothing can stand against. And yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. And yes, I will bless your name. And yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy and all my days. Lord, yes, I will for all my days. Yes, I will for all my days. Yes, I will. How deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond all measure, that he should give his only Son, who make a wretch his treasure. How great the pain of searing loss, the Father turns his face away, as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory. Behold the man upon a cross, my sin upon his shoulders. Ashamed, I hear my mocking voice call out among the scoffers. It was my sin that held him there until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. I will not boast in anything, no gifts, no power, no wisdom, but I will boast in Jesus Christ, his death and resurrection. Why should I gain from his reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart, his wounds have paid my ransom. Why should I gain from his reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart, his wounds have paid my ransom. But this I know with all my heart, his wounds have paid my ransom. Lord, we declare nothing more than I know with all my heart that your wounds have paid my ransom. Lord, I pray that as we go into this discussion of how we might defend our faith, how we can look into the world and not be worried, our confidence is in you, Lord. This is simply an explanation, an apologetic of how we may portray the truth that is found in you. Lord, I thank you so much for this blessed opportunity that we have. I pray that tonight would be beneficial for all of us and that it would inspire us to have a firmer foundation in ourselves on you, Lord, and a firmer foundation to go into the world and to declare to the world the gospel of Jesus Christ. Lord, we thank you so much, for we are so unworthy, but it is in your name alone that we pray. Amen. You may be seated.
Well, good evening, everybody. We're so happy to have everybody here for this event. It is one of the highlights, at least for me, that we can be here and talk about defending our Christian faith. Because if it's not true, we could all be doing something better. But if it is true, there's nothing better that we could be doing. So a couple things before we get started and I introduce our speaker. I have a bunch of books to give away. And Steve told me that I could just make some stuff up. So I need somebody, let's see, who traveled the farthest to get here other than Tim? What's that? Yell out how far away you are from here. Laytonsville. Did someone say Ohio? No? Mount Airy, yeah. It's in the name of the church. You don't get Sykesville, that's kind of far. Where are you from? What's that? Baltimore? Jonathan, I think actually that might be the longest. So how long does it take to get here? An hour? Anybody longer than an hour to get here? All right, we've got 2 winners because I got plenty of books and not that much stuff to make up. So Jonathan, come up here, and one of you guys come up here. So I've got Jehovah's Witness, Robert M. Bowman, Jr. Cold Case Christianity for Kids, that one's definitely for you. You got plenty of kids. And The Case for Life. No, that one's not for you. You already got yours. You already got yours. Yeah. All right. Anybody who's first time here tonight? Other than Tim, you can just keep your hand down. I definitely know you're not. So everybody's been here before? All right, I've got 2 books here for that family over there. Welcome. One of you come grab it. We've got Keeping Your Kids on God's Side and Correct, Not Politically Correct. Excellent books for you guys. Awesome. So did everybody get a program on their way in? If you did not, there's a table in the back, and there's still more papers outside. Go ahead and grab one. That'll tell you what's going on tonight and tomorrow as well. And in the back, we have a list of our sponsors, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank them. It's because of our sponsors that it's free tonight for you and tomorrow. And I was talking to Tim before we started, and he said he didn't know of any other church that spent the money to get so many top-notch apologists for 15 years. Steve, is that how many years we've been doing it? 15 years. So we as a church are blessed to have not only Tim here, but all the ones that we've had in the past. So just wanted to thank our sponsors and our pastors and elders for thinking it so important that we defend our faith. So give them a hand. And also, you'll notice a lot of our sponsors are businesses, and they're people that are in the church. So take your business to them, of course, right? Jesus said, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind." And that's what we're doing here this weekend, is learning how to love God with our mind. With our mind. So Tim Barnett, he's worked for Stand to Reason since 2015, is that right?
Yeah, 2015.
2015, and he travels around the country. He's from Canada. I haven't heard him say "a" yet, but he does say "a boat." So you'll notice some Canadian there. He's got 3 girls.
3 girls.
So you can pray for him for sure.
I need it.
How old are they?
7, 9, and 11.
7, 9, and 11. So he hasn't even hit those teen years yet. So definitely be praying for him.
That's when I'm getting my own place.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so I will give it up to him. Tim's passion and energy will encourage us all to love God with our mind even more. So give him a hand as he comes up.
Thank you. Thank you. And I truly meant that. The investment that this church has put into training you guys up so you are able to defend, articulate your faith is, it's like I wish every single church did that. Man, Norm Geisler, you've had J. Warner Wallace and Sean McDowell and Greg Kokel, and I'm sorry that you had Brett Kunkel, okay? I'm just like, I'll apologize for him. Alan Schleman, I mean, there's all these guys, and they are, Frank Turek, phenomenal apologists. And if just one of these guys visited one church, that would be a win in my books. But you guys have had all of them, which is really absolutely incredible. So I'm really excited to be here with you guys. It is going to be a kind of whirlwind. It's going to be drinking from a fire hose. You're used to that if you've had some of these other speakers, but we're going to give you a whole lot of content, okay? We're going to do 2 sessions tonight. We're going to do service tomorrow, a Q&A tomorrow during Sunday school, another service, Come to both, all right? And then in the afternoon, we got a few sessions as well. It's just going to be, and you guys can see all the stuff we're going to cover in your booklet there. I want to say a couple things before I get rolling here about what I've been doing. I'm just curious, how many of you are familiar with Stand to Reason? Stand to Reason? Okay, good, awesome. So Stand to Reason is the ministry that I work for. They're based in Southern California. I am in Toronto. It didn't take me very long to get here. I didn't have to come across the country, just headed south. And so that's a ministry I want you guys to check out, str.org. But another resource that I hope will be valuable to you is called Red Pen Logic with Mr. B. How many of you have heard of Red Pen Logic? Okay, less of you. Okay, here's what we're going to correct that tonight. What you're going to do at some point is check out Red Pen Logic, either on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, all the things, all the places, okay? You can find a Red Pen Logic channel. We started during COVID when I couldn't travel. There was, nothing I couldn't do what I normally did. And so we were dreaming up some ideas, and Red Pen Logic was born. Basically what we do is we respond to nonsense that's online, and there's a lot of nonsense, okay? So job security is awesome, all right? We started with responding to graphics, tweets, memes, that kind of thing. We still do that, but video is where young people live. And so in particular, it's YouTube, it's TikTok. Look, I'm on TikTok, not because I want to be on TikTok, okay? It is one of the most ungodly places. So I'm not encouraging you to go on TikTok, but if you're already there or you know someone who is, tell them to go check out Original Mr. B on there, okay? And I think close to 200,000 people follow that channel. And it's not because Mr. B is so special. It's because there is a vacuum on TikTok. They need Christians defending the Christian faith on there. I just happened to be a guy who jumped on there and was doing that, and Christians started following. So check those out. What we're going to talk about tonight is not actually with the title in the book. The book says it's a question about genocide. Okay, we're actually going to talk about the heavens declare the glory of God tonight. I will answer. If you came tonight thinking, I want to hear about how does God. How can God be love or good? And yet there's this Old Testament situation about genocide, or so-called genocide of the Canaanites. Come tomorrow to Sunday school and ask your question. I'm not afraid of the question. I got to talk here on it. But I wanted to start things rolling with a little bit of a more kind of upbeat, energetic kind of talk. I mean, genocide out of the gate, it just would have been a downer, okay? It really would have been. So let's start with the heavens declare the glory of God, and we'll move from there, okay? Let me start with this true story that takes place April 11th, 1970 at 2:13 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, who knows the significance of that date or wants to take a guess at the significance of that date? What do you think? The year I was born? See, now I'm offended. Because I was born in 1983. So you just put me at 53 years old. But just a point of information, today actually is my birthday. So I was born April 29th, right? So 29th, 1983. And so 40 years old today. Can you believe it? So that's not it. Okay, so you guys have to leave now. Okay, I'm just saying. That was a bad answer. No, it was okay. No, it's good. Stick around. Any other guesses? Now you're afraid. Something in the heavens. Man, that's a good guess. Sometimes people will say Star Wars because I use the font. That actually that's to throw you off, okay? Nothing to do with Star Wars. Has to do with the heavens. It's actually the launch of the Apollo 13 spacecraft, okay? At 2:13 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on April 11th, 1970, the Apollo 13 spacecraft was launched from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This was the third scheduled mission to land on the moon. Now, if you know the story, you know that Apollo 13 never actually does land on the moon. You see, initially, everything is going to plan on this magnificently designed spacecraft. However, 55 hours and 54 minutes into the mission, traveling at 2,000 miles per hour, that's as fast as a speeding bullet, the crew feels and experiences an explosion. And then you get Captain Jack Swigert famous words. You guys know what they are? Houston, we have a problem. And this is a serious problem, okay? One of their oxygen tanks, they had two. One of them had exploded. And the second is like leaking into space. That's not good. Apollo 13 has a new mission, and that's to keep the astronauts alive and bring them home safely. And that they did, despite limited power, loss of cabin heat, a shortage of drinking water. They returned home on April 17th, and this mission was called a successful failure, okay? A successful failure. Now, why am I telling you about the Apollo 13 mission? Well, just as the Apollo 13 crew survived against all odds in the lethal conditions of space, we too survived against all odds on this planet that we call Earth. Okay, good. You're still with me. All right, we call Earth. The conditions of the Apollo 13 spacecraft, we would say, are finely tuned to support life, the life of the astronauts. And the slightest change in these conditions puts the lives of the astronauts in danger. And in a very similar way, what we're going to see is the Earth, the solar system, the galaxy, and the structure of the universe are finely tuned to support life. And the slightest change in these conditions puts our lives and life in general in danger. Now, what we say is these conditions are balanced on a razor's edge. So you can imagine it like this. Imagine a tightrope stretched across two skyscrapers. Literally on either side, it does not support life. Right? Like if you take one step to the left or one step to the right off the tightrope, what happens? You plummet to the ground. And so in the same way, there are these conditions that must be just so, and the slightest change in these conditions does not support life. And we're not just going to talk about human life. We're going to talk about how there would be no life whatsoever. Okay? So what we're going to do is go on a little journey. We're going to start by looking at the Earth. Then we're going to go out from the Earth to the solar system. Then we're going to go out from the solar system to our galaxy. And then finally, we're going to go out from our galaxy, and we're just going to look at the structure of the universe, like how the universe is kind of set up. Okay? How does that sound? 4 of you like how that sounds. Okay. That's good. All right, so we're going on a journey here for the next 40 minutes, all right? Now, let's start with the Earth. How many of you heard of Goldilocks and the 3 bears? You guys familiar with the story? Okay, good. So you know Goldilocks breaks into a home. Okay, this is about breaking and entering, by the way. You shouldn't read that stuff to your kids. All right, so she breaks in and she discovers a porridge, right? And it's one is too hot, one is too cold, and one is just right? And so astronomers have actually applied this idea to our solar system. In fact, not just our solar system, but a planet, its proximity to its planetary star, okay, has to be just right. And they call this the Goldilocks zone or the Goldilocks principle. So, if we were, for example, to go a little bit further out, like move the planet, move Earth a little bit further from the sun, well, that's in a region that's too cold, okay? And if you move it a little bit too close to the sun, well, this becomes a region that's too hot. In fact, if you go too far out where Mars is like 0 degrees Celsius. Can I use Celsius here? Like, what's that, 32? 32 degrees Fahrenheit. can I welcome you to the metric system? Okay, can we like bring you in with the rest of the world? You know what I'm saying? Okay, so 32 degrees Fahrenheit. At its equator in the summer is like average temperatures. It's cold there, okay? It's cold. You go too close to the sun, it gets a little bit warmer. In fact, where Venus is, our neighbor, it's around 700 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface, okay? So a little bit too warm. Now, it has a runaway greenhouse effect. There's other things going on there, too. But Earth, if you've been there before, it's beautiful this time of year, by the way, okay? Earth is at that just right position, the Goldilocks position, the Goldilocks zone. But it's not just about temperature. It's about the temperature to get liquid water. That's what matters. Because what scientists think is if you don't have liquid water, then you cannot have life. No liquid water, no life. So if you were to go too far out, well, you might get ice, but that's not liquid water. You could go a little bit, you could get closer, it'd be too hot. Well, you could get water vapor, but not liquid water. On Earth, we have all the conditions just right for all three states of water. That is solid, liquid, and gas. Now, just so you're clear, what you're looking at is actually really amazing, okay? Because that giant ice cube is floating. And I know, like, I can see it in your face. You're like, what's the big deal? I mean, I've seen that kind of thing before. That's not no, you guys need to understand this, okay? Water is one of these things that is so unique, and I think designed for life. Okay, every other known substance, when it goes from its liquid form to its solid form, does it get more dense or less dense? Every other known substance. More dense. This is particle theory. Now, I used to be a high school science teacher, so if you don't like science, you should probably go home, okay? No, don't leave. We're going to have fun here. The particles get closer and closer together, right? And so it gets more dense. That's every naturally occurring substance except for one. Water. When water goes from its liquid form to its solid form, it actually doesn't get more dense, it gets less dense. And it's why that giant ice cube there is floating, okay? So water is really, really cool. It has a very high specific heat capacity. What does that mean? It means it takes a lot of energy to raise this substance just 1 degree Celsius. And that's why if I were to like go on a hot day out to the parking lot and we were all on our bare feet, I could pour a puddle of water and you would be burning your feet on the asphalt out there, but if you put your feet in the water, no big deal, because the driveway heats up a lot faster than water. So it has a high specific heat capacity. Our planet's 70% covered in water. I mean, there's so many cool things about water. You can actually taste the fine-tuning. No, you can't, but I really needed a drink of water. So there you go. Okay, so, well, what's the big deal? If water was like every other substance, then lakes and oceans would actually freeze from the bottom up because the water would become solid and sink to the bottom. Okay, you'd end up with like a snowball Earth, making life really difficult. Okay, not impossible. We'll get to impossible in a second. Okay, but it would become a problem. But I can see that you guys are not impressed by that. Say, Tim, I'm not impressed by that. Okay, here we go. I'll impress you before we're done here. All right, so let's talk about Earth. Did you guys know that Earth is tilted? You guys probably felt it when you walked in the room. You're like, whoa. No, you didn't feel it when you walked in the room. It's tilted, though. If it wasn't tilted, the equator would be just bombarded with, it would be so hot at the equator and so cold at the poles. You wouldn't have the seasons. In fact, in making life highly improbable. But our Earth, I know that you're concerned about this, our Earth is tilted at 23.5 degrees, and that's why we have these cool seasons. Now, you also have to stabilize it, because there's planets out there that have tilts, and some of them are wobbling all over the place, making life highly improbable, okay? Very dangerous. You don't want to live on a planet doing that. So what stabilizes the Earth's tilt? Well, you need a planet with a very large moon. And wouldn't you know it, our Earth has one of those. Pretty cool. Our moon is about a quarter the size of the Earth, okay? Stabilizes the Earth's tilt. If we did not have a large moon, there would be no life on this planet, okay? That's what the scientists think. Now, I can see that you're not impressed by that. Say, Tim, I'm not impressed by that. Okay, okay, here we go. How about this? Do you guys know about the magnetic field? Our Earth has a magnetic field. It's like there's a giant bar magnet in the center of the Earth that creates this magnetic field. It's actually a liquid iron core, but it's the same kind of idea. Now, this magnetic field actually acts as almost like a shield that deflects dangerous particles that are emitted from the sun and deflects them to the poles, okay? And when it does that, here's this animation. Everybody just watch that. Is that cool? Okay. So yeah, I know. Really impressive. So it deflects to the poles, and when that interacts with the nitrogen and the other atmospheric gases at the poles, you know what it produces? The northern lights. Yeah. When you're watching the northern lights, just think, wow, that's the magnetic field keeping us alive. Okay? Really, really cool. When we look out at exosolar planets or extrasolar planets that have, there's a sun and there's some planets orbiting, and we think, I wonder if there's life there. You want to have a planet with a magnetic field that can protect the life on the planet, okay? Okay, but I can see you guys aren't impressed by that either. So what we're going to do is we're going to go out from the Earth to the solar system. Now, you guys, how many of you remember when there were 9 planets? Anybody? Man, those were the days, right? Those were the days. But did you hear what happened? Pluto got demoted. Pluto is considered a dwarf planet, okay? Now, a lot of people think, well, is it because it's too small? No, it's not because it's too small. It actually has to do with its orbit. Now, it was discovered, I think it was the late 90s, they discovered that Pluto's orbit is actually highly elliptical and crosses over Neptune's orbit, its neighbor. And I don't know who gets to make this call, but if you don't have your own cleared orbit, you can't be a planet, okay? And so when they discovered that, Pluto demoted, okay? In fact, there's a debate over this. You could go on YouTube, and if you're having trouble sleeping tonight, there's like a 2.5-hour debate over whether Pluto should be a planet. Absolutely riveting stuff, okay? So if you're interested, take a look at that. So there's 8 planets. There's the 4 terrestrial planets that are right next to the sun, and then there's the 4 gas giants, all right? Now, what's really cool about our setup is that the gas giants are further out, and where we are, the third rock from the sun, is in that Goldilocks zone, but has you guys like football, right? Okay, so there's this offensive line that is protecting the terrestrial planets. It's like Earth is the quarterback, and those guys are the offensive line. So if we imagine, say, an asteroid, and of course, we're all really nervous about this asteroid hitting the Earth and annihilating life. And so read this off the screen. Ready? Oh, no. It's a... Wow, I actually believed it. I got a little nervous. Real Armageddon situation, right? We need Bruce and the boys. Okay, so it's heading straight for us. What do? Well, we're not too worried because we got this offensive line out there. And because these gas giants are so massive, the mass of them creates these gravitational fields that pull in all kinds of space debris, okay? And so here's our asteroid, and it comes in here and makes contact with Jupiter. We're not worried. Jupiter is 13 times the size of the Earth. Okay, you could fit 13 Earths inside of Jupiter. That spot, the red spot on Jupiter, is 2 times the size of the Earth. That's a hurricane, okay? That's one storm. This thing is massive. They think that Jupiter gets hit like 5 times a month with impacts that could do serious damage if they hit a planet like ours. There's actually this like tail of debris that kind of floats behind Jupiter as it orbits, okay? Just because of its massive gravitational pull. And so we should literally thank God for Jupiter, okay? In fact, my daughter, my oldest, who's 11, in the audience when I was doing a talk on fine-tuning a number of years ago. She was probably 4 or 5, and she heard me. She's just playing in the back, coloring, whatever, but she heard me say, we should thank God for Jupiter. That night, we're doing our prayers together, and she says, you know, thank you for mommy and daddy and going through, and thank you for Jupiter, you know? And for about a year, Jupiter was part of her prayers, okay? Now, when I taught in the public school system, I taught science, both in the Christian school system and the public school system. And in our public school textbook, it said, Jupiter is a cosmic vacuum cleaner. If Jupiter didn't exist, you wouldn't either. That's what it said. And I think it's right. So thank God for Jupiter. So our solar system, I think, is just right. Now, I can see you guys aren't impressed by that either. Okay, so let's zoom out. We went from Earth, let's zoom out went to the solar system. How about our galaxy? Do you guys know what our galaxy is called? The Milky Way, because it tastes like chocolate, right? Now, just an interesting fact here. Did you know that Canada does not have the Milky Way? You know about that? So we have a chocolate bar similar called the Mars bar. Anyone had a Mars bar before? And another fun fact, the town I live in has a Mars factory, and it makes the Mars bar and Milky Way. And so I actually used to know a guy who worked there. He would smuggle Milky Ways out of there for us, okay? There's a whole like black market of Milky Way chocolate bars. Okay, so Milky Way, it's 100,000 light years across. If you're going to measure something like a galaxy, you need a big meter stick or yardstick, okay? So we can measure this room, a yardstick would do it. How many yards is this across? Or in Canada, we would say, how many meters is this across? Now, if you want to measure something as big as a galaxy, you need a big standard of measurement. And so what is a light year? It is a distance that light travels in 1 year, which works out to be 6 trillion miles. 6 trillion miles. And so we're talking 100,000 light years across. There's actually 100 million stars in our galaxy, okay? Now, I don't know who counted, but there you go. Giant black hole in the center that everything seems to be orbiting around. It's a spiral galaxy, so what you're looking at there, by the way, that's not our galaxy. That's what we think our galaxy looks like. We're in our galaxy, hard to get a picture of it. So you can see like the arms are dense clusters of stars and gas, all right? And now where we reside is actually between spiral arms, a certain distance out from the center. You don't want to be too close to the center. A lot of radiation, a lot of things that would be deadly for life. Like when a star explodes, goes supernova, you don't want to be next to that when it goes off. You also don't want to be too far out in the galaxy because there's not as many heavy elements. And so like chemistry class would be really easy out there because it'd be like, okay, get out your periodic tables. Hydrogen, helium. So you need, if you want life, you want carbon, you need oxygen, you need some of these other elements. So where we reside, even in our galaxy, is almost like a Goldilocks thing, okay? It's not the same as the Goldilocks principle, but it's like that. It's a Goldilocks zone or habitable zone. All of these things, and there are more, point to our Earth being very unique. Where it is in our solar system, where it is in our galaxy, very unique. We find all kinds of planets out there. They think there's like, I forget how many, it's like 700 quintillion planets in the universe, okay? That's a 7 followed by 20 zeros. Again, I don't know who counted. But there's a paper that I don't have here in this presentation, but 2 secular scientists basically say there's 700 quintillion planets and only one like Earth. And what they're doing is looking at these specific details. And they're saying, how do you get all of these details just right? They all have to be there. But what I want you to do is forget everything I just told you. And you're thinking, already done, right? I don't know what you're talking about, Tim. Forget it, because the real fine-tuning that has actually got hardcore atheists saying, man, if there's one argument that compels me to look at God a second time, it's this argument. It was Christopher Hitchens. There's been numerous who have said this particular argument seems to be powerful. It has to do with the structure of the universe. And what I mean by that is there are certain things about the universe, like the speed of light, or the gravitational constant, or the cosmological, there's these different constants and quantities in the universe that must be just so, and if they are not just so, you can have no life. And when I say no life, I mean no planets, and no stars, and no chemistry in many cases. Let me show you. Imagine there's a room in the universe. We'll call it the universe control room. And it has dials. And these dials are set just right. And if you change the dial, then you change the universe. So there's these guys called theoretical physicists, okay? And a theoretical physicist is a guy who looks at these particular equations in physics and then plays around with the numbers and sees what happens in their models, okay? So they don't actually change the universe, they change the universe in theory. And when they do that, they look at what happens as a result. And what they're finding is when they change the values, like just a little bit, it goes from life permitting to life prohibiting. You go from a universe that will allow life, now it's not guaranteed, okay? You just have a universe that's set up for life. You still have to get the life somehow. That's another question. To a universe that does not allow for life. It will not allow life. Have you guys tuned a radio before? So that's what we're talking about. When they say fine tuning, what they mean is like tuning a radio. And if you go too far, it's like, and then your station comes in. And then you go past it, and all of a sudden it goes static again. So we're going to check out this fine tuning. Now, what are the scientists saying? Now, here's one scientist who, again, these are not Christians, but here's what they're saying. Freeman Dyson, he says, the more I examine the universe and study the details of its architecture, the more evidence I find that the universe, in some sense, must have known that we were coming. Okay. How about this one? Fred Hoyle. Fred Hoyle, by the way, was an atheist. And then later, I think he changed his mind and became some kind of theist. And it was because of this argument, fine-tuning. He says this, a common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics as well as with chemistry and biology, and there are no blind forces we're speaking about in nature. He says the numbers one calculates from the facts seems to me so overwhelming as to put this conclusion almost beyond question. Or how about one more? George Greenstein, in his book, This Symbiotic Earth, he says, as we survey all the evidence, the thought insistently arises that some supernatural agency, or rather, and then he puts the capital A, agency must be involved. Is it possible that suddenly, without intending to, we have stumbled upon scientific proof of the existence of a supreme being? And then he says, was it God who stepped in and so providentially crafted the cosmos for our benefit? The answer is yes to both those questions, and I want to show you just a couple examples. But here, just so we're clear on what we're doing here, one more illustration that might help. Imagine someone gave you the cake recipe, a cake recipe to like the best cake, okay? And as the theoretical baker, not physicist, baker, you're going to now change the values, change the instructions in the recipe. That's all we're doing. If we can do it for a cake, we can do it for the universe, okay? And when we do it for the cake, let's say we change the cups of flour, double it, take the eggs out, and crank it to 800 degrees Fahrenheit and see what happens to our cake, right? You change the input, you change the output. Well, what happens when we change the input in the universe? Okay, well, let's look at a couple things. The first thing is the mass of the fundamental particles. Now, if you were in school, you probably learned about atoms and how everything is made up of these atoms. And then you probably learned, wait a second, atoms aren't like the most fundamental thing. There's something more fundamental than atoms. They smashed atoms apart, and they found that there's actually protons and neutrons and electrons that make up the atom, okay? And so from those three elements, the proton, neutron, and electron, you get the entire periodic table, okay? Now, hopefully I'm not triggering anyone here by seeing the periodic. Some of you maybe have been out of the science classroom for a couple years, all right? And so, for example, there's helium. Helium has 2 protons and 2 neutrons and 2 electrons, and you have the helium atom. Now, the story doesn't end there because they built these massive particle accelerators, smashed particles together, and what they found out was you could actually break apart a proton and a neutron. A proton and a neutron are actually made up of 3 particles each. And they're called quarks, okay? And so the neutron is made up of 1 up quark and 2 down quarks, and the proton is made up of 2 up quarks and 1 down quark. Now, I don't know who named these because it's not clever, okay? But up and down, okay? And then the electron we think is fundamental. I mean, they've tried breaking that thing apart, and it doesn't seem to want to break. Okay, so you essentially have these 3, the up quark, the down quark, and the electron, that make up all of visible matter, okay? Any kind of matter in the universe is made up of these 3 particles. And now we actually know the masses of these particles, okay? Now, we can get the masses. We don't put them on your bathroom scale at home, okay? They can calculate these values, and I converted them to kilograms here. They're actually usually in mega electron volts, but kilograms sounds at least somewhat familiar to you. Probably pounds would be better, but there's something in me that will not allow me to do that, okay? These values are really small numbers. We're talking, there's a decimal point and then 30 zeros, okay? These are very small numbers. What happens when we change the values of these? Well, the down quark, if you were think about this, it's already a very small number. If you were to just increase it by a factor of 3, the down quark, which maybe 30 minutes ago, you didn't even know that there was such a thing as a down quark, okay? And yet it is in everything in this room, okay? It is in the air that we are breathing, okay? Just increase it by a factor of 3, what happens to the universe? Remember the periodic table? It's gone. Gone. And you have only hydrogen. Your universe is only hydrogen atoms. That's it. If you were to take the up quark and multiply it or increase it by a factor of 6, what happens to the universe? It's even worse. All of chemistry is gone. All you have is neutrons floating around. That's a life-prohibiting universe. That is a universe that cannot have material life. I mean, I could imagine angels living in that universe because they're not made of material. But there's no life as we know it made of matter in that universe, okay? And then it's worse with the electron, increased by a factor of 2.5, and you're back to your neutron universe, okay? Now, if you want to know where this information's coming from, there's a really cool book called A Fortunate Universe. A Fortunate Universe. And what's amazing about this book is it's written by 2 Australian astrophysicists. One of them is a Christian, the other is an atheist. They work together in Sydney, They're like best friends. They wrote this book together, and they both agree in fine-tuning. They disagree on what best explains it, okay? So the whole book, or most of the book, they're in perfect agreement, talking about this stuff. And then they get to like chapter 8 and 9, and the Christian writes the chapter saying, I think God is the intelligent designer behind all this. The atheist says, I think the multiverse is what explains this, okay? And so we can talk about the multiverse in the Q&A if you want. I'm happy to do that. Okay, so the particles are like, okay, those are like things in the universe, but there's also laws in the universe. There's these constants in the universe that govern the matter in the universe. And one of those laws is the law of gravity. Now, I could talk about gravity with you because you all understand it. It's what's keeping you in your seat right now, okay? It turns out every two objects in the universe are gravitationally attracted to each other. So I'm attracted to the podium. I'm attracted to the Earth. That's why I'm not floating around the room. I'm attracted to the Andromeda galaxy, 2.5 million light years away. And so there's every two objects, every two masses are attracted to each other. In fact, this was a pickup line I used on my wife in university. Do you guys want to hear about that? Okay, quickly. So I'm studying physics, and she was studying chemistry, and there was chemistry. And so we got introduced to each other, and this was in my last semester, like in my fourth year, okay? I was in the physics program, and there were no girls. Like literally, there was no girls. And so we were so focused on studying and getting A's and all that stuff. And then I get introduced to this girl, and I said to her, because I was such a loser, but I said to her, you're attracted to me, right? Now, at that time, I had hair, so it was like a totally different thing that I had going on. And she said, excuse me? And I said, well, gravitationally. And she married me, right? Like, it's kind of cool, right? So it's a physical attraction. Well, this is cool. It turns out some of the single guys are like writing this down, like, okay, I'm going to use that. The gravitational constant that's in the equation, that big G in the equation that we teach our high school seniors, that value is finely tuned to 1 part in at least 10 to the 40th power. It's probably 10 to the 60th, but I'm just going to go with the most conservative number here, 10 to the 40th power, okay? What does that even mean? I mean, you're looking at a bunch of zeros. The odds of you getting struck by lightning are 1 in a million. That's the orange. The odds of you winning the lottery in Canada are 1 in 100 million, okay? That's the orange. The odds of you being struck by lightning, surviving, and then in your lifetime being struck by lightning a second time is 1 in a trillion, okay? That's the orange. But the odds of getting a life-permitting gravitational constant are all the zeros, 1 in 10 to the 40. So here's an illustration. Here's an analogy. Imagine we take dimes. Now, those are Canadian dimes, got a little sailboat on them, okay? They're not worth as much as your dimes. But we take those dimes and we cover the entire continent of North America. Say, that's a lot of dimes. Thank you. I actually copied and pasted all those dimes on there. That's like an afternoon I will never get back, okay? So that's a lot of dimes. And then we take those dimes and we stack them all the way to the moon, okay? Now that is a lot. Say, that's a lot of dimes. And I gave up, so that's all I'm going to do, okay? So to the moon. And then we do that on 1 billion more continents, the size of North America. And then I take 1 dime and I paint it red. And that's going to be our life-permitting dime. And I throw it into the sea of dimes on 1 billion continents the size of North America all the way to the moon. And then I blindfold one of you. So I'm going to blindfold you. And I put a gun to your head and I say, pick the red one or you're dead. If he picked the red one, there isn't a person in this room that would say, wow, you're lucky. Wow, chance. No. We'd all look at you and say, where's the hole in the blindfold? He peaked. He designed the outcome. And by the way, it's actually, the odds of you picking the red dime are better than getting the life-permitting gravitational constant. Now, I agree. Every dime is equally likely. Okay, that's how probability works. But it is vastly more probable that you would pick a non-red dime than the single red dime. And that's why we start to think there's something else going on here. That's why when someone gets dealt a royal flush in poker, and then they get dealt another royal flush and another royal flush, which is like Jack, Queen, King, Ace, all in the same suit, I think. That's the hardest hand to get in poker. It's unbeatable. And if someone kept getting them, there isn't anyone here that would say, man, you're lucky. They'd say, you're a cheater. Get this guy out of here. He's not playing anymore. Okay? You would make a design inference when that kind of thing happens. And that's why people are making a design inference when it comes to the fine-tuning of the universe. Now, some people are going to say it's just chance. And that reminds me of this clip from a movie called Dumb and Dumber. Okay, I'm not recommending the movie, but this is a hilarious scene because what happens is Lloyd Christmas here, he meets this girl at the beginning of the movie, spends the whole movie trying to find her, and then he declares his love to her and asks her, what are the chances of you and me, getting together? And here's what she says.
What are my chances? Not good. You mean not good like 1 out of 100? I'd say more like 1 out of 1,000,000. So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
No, what he's saying is you have no chance. That's what he's saying, okay? And when you start talking to mathematicians about probability, when you hit the 1 part in 10 to the 50th power, you are now like in the realm of impossible. Now, I get it. Someone could say that anything's possible. Okay, fine. But it is not reasonable anymore to say that this is something that happens by chance, all right? And by the way, the gravitational constant, at least we can kind of get our minds around some of this stuff. Because I understand what gravity is, and 10 to the 40th, okay, we can play with dimes and maybe understand. When you start looking at things like the cosmological constant, which by the way is like reverse gravity, like gravity accelerates everything towards that massive body. The cosmological constant is what's working the other way and blows everything apart, okay? And it's finely tuned to 1 part in 10 to the 120th power. That's 1 followed by 120 zeros, okay? You and I cannot comprehend that number. There are only 10 to the 80th power of subatomic particles in the universe. 10 to the 80th. So when we talk about these numbers, it's incomprehensible. You cannot wrap your minds around them. We can't. That's why I like this quote from Robert Jastrow, who is an agnostic astronomer. That means he didn't know if God exists. He says, for the scientist who has lived by his faith in the power of reason, the story ends like a bad dream. He has scaled the mountains of ignorance. He's about to conquer the highest peak. And as he pulls himself over the final rock, he is greeted by a band of theologians who have been sitting there for centuries. Because what have theologians been saying for centuries that the 20th and 21st century scientists are saying? Well, stuff like, in the beginning, God created. And science is pointing in that direction. It's pointing to God. Now, is it any wonder that David wrote? Now, he didn't know about the gravitational constant being finely tuned, you know what I'm saying? But he could look up at the heavens and say, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the skies proclaim the work of his hands. Or a few centuries later, you have the prophet Isaiah, God speaking through the prophet, to whom will you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One. Lift your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? Who brings out their starry host one by one and calls them each by their name? When we look up at the heavens, we can look with our eyes, but we've created cool telescopes like the Hubble Space Telescope that orbits the Earth and takes pictures like this. This picture right here is called the Hubble Deep Field. It would be like if you held a sand grain at arm's length and focused on that patch of the night sky, the size of a sand grain, for 10 days, 11 days. The image they got back when they focused on this like sand grain sized patch of darkness was this picture, which is 3,000 galaxies. 3,000 galaxies. Each one of these galaxies with millions and billions of stars. Just so you know, if you were going to go to like from our star to another star, in our best technology, would take you like 200,000 years. In our best technology, like a space shuttle. And we think we're going to explore space, right? That's just one star to one star. Remember, there's 100, did I say million? Billion stars in our galaxy, and we think there's over 100 billion galaxies, okay? Now, this has, so David looks up at the heavens and says, the heavens declare the glory of God. Bill Nye, you guys know who Bill Nye the Science Guy is? He looks up at the heavens. Now, Bill Nye is not a Christian. He would consider himself an atheist. He looks up at the heavens and he comes to a very different conclusion. Listen to what Bill Nye says here.
So I remember thinking, I am just another speck of sand. And the Earth, really, in the cosmic scheme of things, is another speck. And the sun, an unremarkable star, nothing special about the sun. The sun is another speck. And the galaxy is a speck. I'm a speck, on a speck, orbiting a speck, among other specks, among still other specks, in the middle of specklessness. I am insignificant. I suck.
So this is a naturalistic worldview kind of lived out consistently. Notice how they're all laughing, like that's funny. Like, we're just a speck. I mean, look at the size of the universe. Where is our galaxy even in the big scheme of things? It's just a speck. Where is our solar system within the galaxy? It's a speck. Where is our planet within our solar system? It's like a speck. In fact, you want to see an actual picture of our planet as a speck? Check out this pale blue dot. It might not be easy to see. You'll see like a band of light, and there is like this very small pale blue dot on the screen. And it is a picture. Let me see if I can help you. Oh yeah, you see it. It's right there. It is a picture taken from Rover 1 when the Rover 1 space probe on February 14th, Valentine's Day, 1990. Voyager 1 was beyond Pluto. Carl Sagan had it turn around and take a photo of the Earth. And it was cool because of the optics of the equipment, there's this cool band of light that captures this pale blue dot. And so there we are. There's the speck. All of human existence on that speck. And from his worldview, Bill Nye's, and many others, they equate that speck to our significance. That is, we are insignificant. But as a Christian, we have a totally different perspective, right? When I look at the heavens, the first thing I think about is God's awesomeness. The heavens declare the glory of God. That's the first thing. The second thing is, listen to David in Psalm 8. He says, when I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars. So he's looking at the same kind of thing we're looking at. Which you have set in place. What is man that you are mindful of him, the Son of Man, that you care for him? Who are we, man? Look at all this. Look at the stars. Look at the moon. What are we? And then he says, yet you made him a little lower than the heavenly beings and crowned him with glory and honor. God did that. The same God that made all that stuff made you. I love the connection. Yet you made him. What is man that you are mindful, yet you made? The reason God's mindful of you is because he made you. The reason he cares for you is because he created you. But when you get rid of the maker, you get rid of the creator, you are left with a worldview that is hopeless, where you are insignificant and you are just a speck. In a way, we've been kind of talking about God's love here, because every single fine-tuned condition is set up for life. God doesn't need it. These things are set up for us. And so we're not just like, it's like God has created this really cool environment for us to live, okay? But it goes beyond that, because it's not like, we had a hamster named Teddy years ago, and he lasted like 10 months, okay? But we had this cool habitat with tunnels and all this stuff. But it's not like that. God set up this really cool thing, and not only that, he actually becomes one of us and comes to save us on a rescue mission. That's love, right? That's even cooler than, Jupiter. This is like the creator coming into the creation to save it. I love these words from this hymn from Isaac Watts, and I'll close with this, then we'll do some questions. Actually, Charles Wesley, he said he would trade all the hymns that he ever wrote if he could have wrote this one, okay? And it's called When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. And I love these words. He says, "Were the whole realm of nature mine, that were a present far too small." Everything we just looked at, all that, 100 billion stars in our galaxy, 100 billion galaxies, were the whole realm of nature mine, that were a present far too small. Love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all. What could you possibly give to the creator of the universe? What could you give him? He made it all that stuff we just looked at. And the answer is, there isn't anything you can give him besides your life. You're saying, God, I will follow your will. I will obey your commands. I will choose to love and serve you. That's what he asked from us. Let me pray and then we'll take questions. Father, thank you that you've revealed yourself in Scripture, your special revelation, but we also get a glimpse of you in your general revelation, in your creation. Your invisible attributes, namely your eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen in what you have made. Thank you that we're without excuse when we look at this stuff. And I just pray that the Christians in the room would have their faith strengthened because of this session, and the people in this room that are on the fence, that maybe aren't believers, that this would be the kind of thing that would say, man, I need to take a closer look at this. There's something to this. And that you really are the creator of the universe, and you are worthy of worship and obedience. Thank you for your revelations. In your name we pray, amen. All right, so we do have a mic. If you have a question, you want to throw your hand up, we'll get that mic to you, and then I'll do my best to answer. Does anyone have a question? Of course, the first question is always the hardest to get, so we'll just move right to the second question, okay? Who has our second question?
Thank you very much. We thoroughly enjoyed that. I sit back and listen to this and thinking, how is it that the majority of scientists and physicists and all these other guys are non-believers? I mean, obviously their eyes are blinded to the light of the glorious gospel. What are some of the reasons they give that this does not mean a divine creator? What are some things that
that's good. Okay, so I'll walk through just a couple. One of the most common is Richard Dawkins. He said the central thesis of his book, The God Delusion, which he wrote in about 2004, 2005, is who designed the designer? That's his main comeback. And so if I said, hey, look, what is the best explanation for the fine-tuning of the universe? Did it have to be that way? Necessity? No, most people don't think that. Is it chance? Well, I don't think so. I think that's not a reasonable explanation. That leaves design as the other option. And so I think it points to a designer that's beyond the universe, okay? Now, if you want to entertain aliens, whatever, as a designer, okay, we could talk about that. I actually think it points to an immaterial, extremely powerful, intelligent designer, which lines up with how we describe God. So who made God? Who designed the designer? The problem with that response is it is like Dawkins. You say you're challenging the God of the Bible. That's how he launches into the book. The God of the Old Testament is one of the most unpleasant characters in all of fiction. He's jealous and proud of it. He's vindictive, bloodthirsty, ethnic cleanser, and goes on and on. He's talking about the God of the Old Testament. The problem is, the God of the Old Testament is not made. The God of the Old Testament was not designed. From everlasting to everlasting, you are God, Psalm 90, verse 2. That's the God of the Old Testament. So, okay, I actually agree with Dawkins when he says that created gods are a delusion. I wouldn't use the term delusion, but I get what he's coming from. I think created gods are not a good explanation. The uncreated God, I think, is. And that is a vastly different, like, he thinks God is like Zeus or Thor or Baal or whatever. That's not the God of the Old Testament. The Hebrews, the Israelites, they worshipped a God that was like omnipresent, omnipotent, it was all loving and all good. And so, who made God? The answer is nobody. Not the God of the Bible, right? So it's kind of it's like I taught my girls this. I asked them, what's the color blue smell like? And when my one daughter was 3, she said blueberries. Now, no, it's cute, but that's not it. Blue does not have a smell, right? How heavy is the number 4? There's a category mistake. You're applying something like smell to something that doesn't have a smell, or weight to something that doesn't have a weight. When you say, who made God, you're applying a question that does not apply to the thing that you're talking about. At least the thing I'm talking about. You want to talk about the Christian God. The other explanation that is more sophisticated is the multiverse. The multiverse, here's what it does for you. Okay, Tim, the fine-tuning is a fact of reality. Okay, but, and they would say if there's only one universe, man, that points to a designer. But if there's like almost an infinite number of universes out there, eventually you're going to get a universe that's finely tuned. It's kind of like playing the lottery. Look, if you only play the lottery, or remember our illustration with the blindfold and picking the red dime, what if you got to pick at the red dime forever? Like an infinite number of guesses. Eventually you're going to get the red dime. So the multiverse gets you out. It's like it saves your paradigm, and that's what I think it is. By the way, it's a worldview saver for the naturalist. But notice what you're appealing to. Instead of one invisible God, infinite God, you're appealing to an infinite number of invisible universes. I mean, almost by definition, the multiverse is talking about universes that we have no access to. And so there's nothing scientific about the hypothesis of a multiverse. It is not physics, it is metaphysics. It's not science, it's more like philosophy. Now, that doesn't mean it's not true. I'm just saying, when scientists start talking about a multiverse, they're now outside of their discipline and they're somewhere else. The other problem with the multiverse, okay, so there's no evidence for it, not scientific evidence. there's this problem. It's kind of like a bump in the carpet. You know, if you ever had a bump in your carpet and you step on it and it pops up over here, it's kind of like that. I can't explain the fine-tuning of the universe. Step on it. Well, then you have the fine-tuning of a multiverse. Because the question arises, what is this mechanism that's producing universes at like where you get like an infinite number of them? Well, it turns out to get that mechanism, to get that system, whether it's eternal inflation or whatever, there's different ideas about that, there ends up being some kind of fine-tuning involved as well. So you just kind of push the question back a step. So that would be another kind of reply. To me, Occam's razor, which is this thing we apply in philosophy, and what we're saying is the simplest explanation that explains all the data and isn't ad hoc is probably the best explanation. And when I look at one God versus an infinite number of universes, to me, the God is the simpler explanation. So, and not to mention, if J. Warner Wallace was here, he'd tell you that same explanation, God, also points to the beginning of the universe, the moral law, the existence of the soul, the resurrection. You have all these lines of evidence that point to one suspect. So we just looked at fine-tuning. Okay. Whereas the multiverse does the job of this one thing, but that's it. I actually think the multiverse destroys science. Or I mean, think about it. In a multiverse, anything can and does happen. If we're playing poker and I'm cheating, but I'm not going to tell you that, and I keep dealing a royal flush to myself, and you say, Tim, I think you're cheating, I would say, actually, in an infinite number of universes, there's a universe where I deal myself 4 straight royal flushes. And we just happen to be in that universe. So, and guess what? I'm pretty sure in this universe, I get a 5th royal flush in a row. No, you'd be like, are you kidding me? I'm not going to settle for that explanation. The multiverse, it over-explains. You get, yeah, okay, you can explain the fine-tuning because you have all these universes, but you end up explaining everything. You also, I mean, you get a resurrection too, because anything and everything happens, right? There's a universe right now where Tim Barnett is on stage giving a talk, but he's an atheist, and it's a room full of atheists, and it's like the fine-tuning talk. It's just anything can and will happen. That's how it works. So kind of a long response to that one question, but there's a lot going on there so you're going to hear who made God and the multiverse. Those are the 2 main kind of responses. There's a few others, but we'll see if someone else has a question. So we got this guy, and then we'll come back over to you.
Hi, Tim.
Hey.
So scientists say the universe is expanding still now.
Yeah.
So does that mean as Christians that there's creation happening at the edge of the universe as it's expanding, or what's it expanding into?
Yeah. So, good question. It was discovered early 20th century. This would be, Einstein actually, in his general theory of relativity, in his equations, it said the universe is either expanding or contracting. And he actually didn't like that. He looked at the night sky and was like, it doesn't look like it's expanding. So he actually changed his equation. And he ended up calling that change in his equation the biggest blunder of his career. He went to California, looked through the Hubble telescope at Mount Wilson, 100-inch telescope. It was the best telescope on the planet at the time. And what he saw through the telescope confirmed the universe was expanding. And that was the redshift of the galaxies. And this galactic redshift, basically the light coming from these galaxies is redder than we would expect. And one of the hypotheses for that explanation is that it's having to do with an expansion of the universe. So I could go into more detail on that, but okay, it's expanding. you got to think of our universe kind of like a rubber balloon that is being blown up. Imagine there's galaxies on it, and they are like buttons on the balloon, okay? And as you blow up the balloon, the buttons are all getting further and further apart. The space, the balloon itself, the fabric, is the rubber would be space itself. And space and time are actually, on general theory, are related, okay? Space-time. The balloon is actually not really blowing up into an actual space, which is weird to think about, okay? So it's not like, don't think of the universe blowing apart like a grenade in this room. The balloon is space, and as it grows, as it stretches, that's what's going on. So there's no creation happening. It's just what is created is all moving away from each other. What is already created is getting blown apart. This, by the way, we think is caused by what they call dark energy. Dark energy has to do with that cosmological constant. It's an energy that we're kind of in the dark about, okay? And that's kind of why they call it that. We really don't know what's going on. But space itself seems to have energy, and it is almost like an anti-gravity that is falling away instead of toward, if that makes sense. Like, it's accelerating. The expansion of the universe, you're blowing up the balloon, and it's actually accelerating, which is interesting, because they thought at one point that maybe the universe would slow down and contract. But it's not slowing down. It's speeding up. And that's why one of the models right now for the end of the universe, not from a Christian perspective, we know Jesus is coming back, but on kind of the naturalistic universe model, stars, eventually space gets, just blown apart to the point where, we're not even able to pick up light from other galaxies because the space is actually accelerating faster than the speed of light. And so we would never even know. We're not only at a fine-tuned point in time to exist, we are in a fine-tuned universe to discover stuff that's out there. There will come a time where things that we see today, we just won't be able to see because of the expansion. And people read about galaxies in textbooks. Again, I'm thinking Jesus is coming back for any of this, but in theory, you could read about something in a textbook and look up and say, I don't see it. It's not there. Well, that's because of the expansion. So, yeah. So I don't think God's continuing to create the universe. It's just the current universe continues to grow. Yes, sir. And then we're going to take a break.
Can we take a break now? No. How you doing?
Hey.
I'm probably the most intelligent person in this room. So they don't want, I might get a little complex on you.
Okay, all right.
So the fine-tuning
Yeah.
thingy that you was talking about.
Yeah.
That explains the universe. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, does it eliminate another, from my understanding, you was talking about the up-down quirk and the electron.
Yeah.
Explaining the mass and everything like
Yeah.
that. You're following me?
Yeah, I'm following you.
Okay, so that explains how life is formed in the universe, right?
What I would say, it explains how you can get life. I could do a whole other talk on the origin of life. Like, how do you get life? It's one thing to have a universe that will allow life, but if you got no God who makes life, then you're not going to have life. It's kind of, and this is, I think, when we look out at, say, Mars, and we say, look at Mars, it's got the right temperature, or we look at a planet, and they find water, let's say. Hey, we know there's liquid water on this planet. They automatically think there must be life. And that's the wrong jump, because I think you actually need a designer for life as well. You need a designer to get the universe or the ecosystem just right, and you need the creator to create life. So it's like you need both those things. Go on.
I agree with you on that.
Okay.
I'm following you here.
Okay, good.
I don't know about them. I'm here.
Okay.
So, does the fine-tuning method eliminate the possibility for life outside of the Earth in another part of the universe, another planet? Does it eliminate that?
Oh, no, it doesn't. It just turns out when we look around our universe.
And we're able to see all of the universe.
Yeah, our universe, when we look around,
Yeah.
what we see is most of the places are not habitable. So, like, if you were to, like, let's look at our solar system to start. Most of the places in our solar system are not habitable. Ours is the only planet in the Goldilocks zone. Now, outside of our galaxy, outside of our solar system, in our galaxy, we may find a planet that's in a Goldilocks zone. Okay, it's the right distance from its star. Good start. Now, let's look at, so we're trying to figure out, hey, does it have any moons? Does it have gas giants nearby? Because most gas giants are actually closer to the star than Mercury is to our star. Most of the big guys are close, terrestrial planets far away. Ours is the exact opposite. And we think our setup is the one that allows for life, not the other way around. So we search out the heavens, and the argument for fine-tuning is to get any life anywhere in this universe, you need these things set up. It just so happens that right here, where we are, it's set up. But when we look over there, when we look over there, when we look over there, those places aren't habitable.
So,
yeah.
So you believe that there is no other life outside of it?
Well, I am not opposed to it. Like, for example, I get this question asked all the time. Tim, do you think there's life out there? And if they discovered life, would that mean that Christianity is not true? And the answer is, no, it wouldn't disqualify Christianity. God can make life wherever he wants, right? There is life on this planet that we have not yet discovered. They're finding life like at the bottom of the oceans. And talk about a place that hasn't been totally explored. Yeah, that's the word. And so, and places like in like the rainforest. You could go all over this planet and you will find that they're still discovering things that they did not know existed yesterday. So in the same way, if they found life on Mars, that does not, first of all, it wouldn't refute the resurrection or arguments for God or any of that stuff, the authority of the Bible, none of that. And then kind of second or third or whatever point I'm on now, I would say God has the ability to make life wherever he wants. And I'm cool with it. Man, he made angels, right? Those are intelligent beings that most people don't even, consider, but it's like they're an intelligent life. God made them.
I think where I'm going with my atheistic friends that I have discussions with. We meet on Thursdays to have these type of discussions.
Cool.
And they, no, that was a joke. I don't meet with atheists. Sorry. No, sorry. No, but the problem, so I do have one guy that we have discussions with.
Yeah.
He says if you cannot eliminate, because I like the fine-tuning method. It's the first time I've ever heard it. It's great. But I'm looking for something to eliminate the possibility of life anyway. Because he says if you can prove that there's life in other places, it raises the probability of other theories. Because you say, okay, so if Earth is 1 in a billion, and let's say it's life out there, so now you're raising the possibility of, you get what I'm saying?
I do.
So,
so I would jump to the fine-tuning of the universe itself. That's why I kind of jokingly said, all right, forget everything I just told you. Because the Earth, I think, is cool. I think the solar system is cool. I think that, because you can understand, I know what a moon is, you know what I'm saying? But the cosmological constant, I don't know what that is. So I start with kind of the local fine-tuning. But to me, you could find another Earth, and like you just said, now all of a sudden our Earth is less impressive if you find another Earth, right? Something like that. The real argument, and I still think the argument is still impressive with Earth, but I think you can avoid that whole discussion and just say, look, to get a fine-tuned universe, the whole universe, that will permit life anywhere in this universe, you need to have these fine-tuned conditions. and you could start talking about electrons and protons and, the quarks and the gravitational constant or whatever. That's what I would do. So I would just avoid kind of you could talk about the Earth, that's fine, but you do an end run around that whole discussion if you say, let's just talk about the whole universe and the chances of getting it set up for permitting life. If you get these things wrong, you don't even get chemistry. So forget about life over there on that planet. You don't even have oxygen and carbon and hydrogen and helium and lithium and boron and all these different elements that are required for life. So that's what I would do. Kind of go straight to the structure of the universe in those discussions. Cool. Let's take a break.
Thank you, Tim. We're going to take a break until 8 o'clock. I wanted to let you know that our Amped ministry back there is selling snacks for their ministry. So they're raising money, so please go spend yours so that they can have a better ministry meeting the needs of our kids. We also have a book table back there, and Tim will be back up at 8 o'clock.